Next, I will invite our Principal Investigator and Academic Director, Prof. Abik, to give his welcome address. So you go back to the program. Yeah, so I will pass the control to Prof. Abik now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, can.
Okay, very nice to meet you all virtually. So we had a lull in the events because of the current situation, but it's wonderful that we can organize this event. And since there is so much participation, so hopefully we can go forward with other events also in the future. So it's a great pleasure to meet you all again, this time virtually on behalf of the Singapore Cybersecurity Consortium. My name is Abhik Roy Chaudhary, and I will be making this presentation to tell you all about who we are and what we do before we proceed with the rest of the program. And thanks to Vivi for already telling us about what will happen this morning. So the Singapore Cybersecurity Consortium is a nationwide platform of engagement. It's sort of a tripartite engagement between the agencies, the industry, and academia. So we have, again, a multi-pronged mission. First, we want to enhance technology adoption. That's quite important. Whatever technologies exist, not just in Singapore, but in other places of the world, we want the state to be enhanced, and this we have seen through the discussions. This is also an issue because the state of the practice may not always be something that we want, and we want to improve that. Then we want to encourage problem-inspired research, and of course, the end goal is to grow an innovation ecosystem, which is not only through this consortium, but has other players and other stakeholders, meaning research, industry, so on and so forth. And this is really the way we can try to bring together the problem statements from the academia, the industry, as well as the agencies, so that they can pitch problems to each other. As we mentioned, since this is a tripartite kind of engagement, therefore, naturally, there are at least three major parties: the Singapore public agencies, which have an open participation, the IHLs, which have an open participation, and industry members, and Singapore registered companies, which have expertise or interest in cybersecurity. They are eligible to apply for membership. So this is really the way we work. As of 1st May, so it's always a little bit behind because we are trying to curate the latest membership information. We have 33 members in various categories: platinum, gold, silver, and these are the details. So maybe I'll leave this slide on for a short while for everybody to see the member companies. Okay, I'll proceed. And then in terms of the public agencies and the academia, these are the public agencies which are interested in cybersecurity, of course, CSA, and also IMDA, MHA, of course, MINDEF, GovTech, and EDB, many others. In academia, we have the major universities, and I'll mention in a minute how the major universities are made important stakeholders in this effort. So these major universities include NUS, NTU, SMU, SUTD, SIT, as well as various others like the A-Star Institutes. Okay. So we are part of the National Cybersecurity R&D program, and it goes under the acronym NCR, National Cybersecurity Research and Development. So this is one of the arms in the effort to grow the innovation ecosystem in NCR. There are many other arms. There are the National Satellites of Excellence. The National Satellite of Excellence is focusing on research in one of the topics of cybersecurity. So for example, in NUS and NTU, we have a National Satellite of Excellence on trustworthy software systems. There's one on mobile systems in SMU, and so on and so forth, and one in SUTD. There are local and international research grants, as we are quite aware, which goes on from time to time. There's the National Cybersecurity R&D Lab, which is also, just like the consortium, also housed in, anchored at NUS, being a national effort. It's anchored, but involves all the parties all across Singapore. And of course, we engage with them quite closely. We are the Singapore Cybersecurity Consortium that we are talking about, and there's also the Cybersecurity Postgraduate Scholarship. So let me move on a little bit faster in the interest of time. There's a steering committee, which is headed by Professor Chen Shu Han, who is the Deputy President of Research and Technology and Distinguished Professor at NUS. And these are the members, current members. And there is a management committee, and these are the current members. So what we do in terms of, as I mentioned, there are several things that we do with the goal of helping companies which might be in different stages of their journey. So it's starting from training and tech update, then discussions, and finally research collaboration. So a company might have different levels of expertise in different topics, so they could engage with us on training and tech update on one topic, which they're ramping up. But in another topic, they might be very mature and they might engage with us in terms of research collaboration. To help each of these three dimensions, the training and tech update, we have some activities. So for training and tech update, we have the annual cybersecurity camp as well as the technology talks. And for the discussions, we have the special interest groups as well as an annual Wild and Crazy Ideas Day. And I have actually witnessed over the years that this is quite useful because this also helps the companies in pitching problems in the wording of the academia, and also helps the academics in pitching problems in the wording of the companies. So this is not just something we do in the form of an event, but at least over the years in the form of experience. I'm really very pleased to note that I've seen that this is very useful. Finally, of course, at the highest level, we have the research collaboration, which would be great. And this could be in the topic of expertise of the company involved. And there is typically an annual seed grant call, which is what Vivi will talk about towards the end of this event. And there's also a Lean Launchpad. This is a very, very nice effort, a Lean Launchpad cybersecurity track, which helps somebody with an idea, helps them with training on how to take it to market. So maybe I'll go over these a little bit faster in the interest of time. So the annual cybersecurity camp we have been organizing for quite some time. So there was one in 2017 February, which is actually for 2016. So there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 events so far on various topics, starting from deep learning and security to blockchain and cybersecurity, as well as secure critical infrastructure. We also had this camp in July last year on the Cyber Investigators Challenge, which we held jointly with MHA. And this was in the context of the RSA conference. Okay, and the technology talk. So right now we are in the middle of a technology talk. Usually we have speakers from government, industry, and academia. Today we are very honored to have two distinguished speakers, one from industry and one from academia, and you will hear from them very soon. So let me not take away their thunder. So these are some of the earlier speakers that have appeared. And in terms of the discussions, usually we have the special interest groups. So this is a very important structure for us. And I'll spend a minute, if you allow me, to talk about this. This is a very important structure in so many different ways, because we want all of the institutions of higher learning to be stakeholders, so that it's not just one institute which is participating a lot, because it's really a national effort. So for this reason, depending on the expertise and the interest of the different institutions of higher learning, we would have each of them leading a special interest groups. And the industry members in the consortium can sign up for the special interest groups and participate in the small group discussions. And in the end, these small group discussions can help in terms of formulating more problem statements and can also influence the grant call. So this is a member-only thing, and this is something which also allows for the stakeholders, in particular the various institutions, to be very actively involved in the effort. The Wild and Crazy Ideas Day I already talked about. It is really a pitching effort, and this helps a lot for the academia and the industry to kind of reach out to each other, because oftentimes we have similar problem statements, but maybe using a different language. And this really, I can speak from experience that this really seems to help. And this is a very nice effort. We can see some of our industry members here in these, and I think this is an academic, a past academic member in these slides. And in terms of dreaming up new projects, I guess Vivi will talk about it. We have an annual seed grant call and 1 to 1.5 year projects. And this is really the mix up, the combination that needs to apply. So the grant is not given to a single company or a single university, but rather to an industry academia pair. And of course, we are looking for problems which are at higher technology readiness levels, or TRL. So Vivi will talk in details, in depth about this towards the end of this presentation. The last item for me to briefly mention is this Lean Launchpad, where again, we have many of our industry members actively contributing, very generously, I would say, contributing their time and experience in this. So this is an experiential learning program, not a typical classroom learning program, but an experiential learning program for commercializing cybersecurity inventions. So suppose you have an idea, you are a graduate student, a PhD student sitting in a university, how can you even take the steps? How do you even know what it involves to commercialize the idea? So this is an evolution of a previous Lean Launchpad, which was not so much targeted towards cybersecurity, but a more general program on how to take ideas to market. And in this case, the cybersecurity content we have curated and tried to make it more specific, I would say, towards cybersecurity. These are some of the completed seed projects, as I mentioned earlier. These are given to industry academia pairs. So you will always notice there's an IHL, and then there is a company who is an industry member of the consortium. These are some of the ongoing seed projects, again, given to industry academia pairs. And finally, we also participate in the tech adoption drive. So through all of these efforts that we do, apart from the ones we mentioned, we also organize the Industry Day jointly with NRF NCR. We have also been involved with the Cybersecurity Innovation Day, which is held under the auspices of CSA, really, but we have also been involved in that, and we are very, very happy and honored to have been able to contribute to that. And there's, of course, also the Singapore International Cyber Week, previously known as GovWare, SICW. So SICW is a very key event, or a very flagship event that is held every year. And again, we are honored to have participated there and play a small piece in driving the innovation. Okay. There's also, the consortium also doesn't only operate on these activities. We are having very broad community connections. We are very broadly connected, both via conferences like what you see here, like Black Hat Asia, IoT Asia, and so on, and also through other kinds of connections. So for example, we are connected with the London office of Rapid Cybersecurity Enhancement and various other initiatives all over the world. Okay. If you are interested in joining us, please do drop us a note at cyber@comp.nus.edu.sg, and we will be very happy to follow up. Our colleagues from the consortium will be very happy to follow up, because then you will get the exposure and the engagement in all of these activities and more. It's really a very, very open environment, and we encourage comments from our members on any new activities that we can launch. It's really a very open environment that we are seeking to build. Individuals, if you are an individual but not a company, from say IHLs or other non-member organizations, a member of the general public, you can join our mailing list. And again, you can email at this email address, the same email address I had in the previous slide. It's easy to remember, I hope, cyber@comp.nus.edu.sg. It's also present in the consortium webpage, and you can join our mailing list. So with that, I finish my presentation. These are all the ways you can reach us. This is our webpage, our email, as well as our Facebook presence. And I very much look forward to this first time virtual event today. And I thank you all for kindly making time for this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Abik. So we will move on to our first speaker of the day. Let me introduce him. Okay, so a quick reminder to those audience who just joined us just now. When the speaker is presenting, we ask your cooperation to keep your mics muted to minimize noise. And then if you have questions, please type them on the meeting chat window, and the speaker will check at the end of the presentation to address the questions. So I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Associate Professor Ling Xiao Jiang from SMU School of Information Systems. So his research focuses on software analysis and mining, exploring the combination of program analysis and machine learning techniques for software quality assurance problems. So I think you can read the rest here. I will not bore you. And so I think something to highlight here is that Prof. Jiang has been working on various program representations for code similarity measurement, refactoring, code search, automated testing, and debugging, which will be also of interest to the cybersecurity community. So without further ado, I invite Prof. Jiang to start his presentation. Please, Prof. Jiang.
Okay, thank you, Vivi, for your introduction. Okay, well, start share my PowerPoint. Okay, can you see? Okay. Thank you a lot for your invitation to the Cybersecurity Consortium. I'm very happy to share my work on the software quality assurance. Of course, in this topic, talk today, I will focus on more smart contract quality assurance, but hopefully the knowledge I'm trying to share in this talk can be applicable to general software as well. Can you hear me? Yeah, so my home network may not be stable. I'll try to turn off my video. Maybe that way I can save some bandwidth. And you already saw my face, so that should be fine. Okay. Okay, so as you know, the blockchain has been touted as a new platform to build trust among unknown parties, so that all the people can carry out all kinds of transactions. And all the transactions may be specified beforehand using smart contract. So the smart contract can be executed without the human interaction in the middle, so that ensure the trustworthy execution of the contracts. In that sense, the quality of the smart contract, the quality of a blockchain is very important. It has a high reliability requirement, but just the same as a general software, it could potentially contain bugs that will attract the hackers to attack the smart contract and the blockchain and try to explore the bugs and explore the financial benefits from that. Another shortage of the smart contract is, although we cannot modify the smart contract after deployment, but sometimes the bugs happens, or maybe some people try to reuse the contract at the different situations. if the certain smart contract contains bug, it's very easy. The bug propagates to other many copies of smart contract. If you want to fix, it cannot fix. You can only discard the contract, and it also causes a very high maintenance because it has already been reused in many places. So just for Ethereum alone, there are many blockchain platforms. Just for Ethereum, there's already more than 1 million smart contracts deployed. Among 49,000 of them are verified software. This verified only means they are open source. The source code is available. It doesn't mean it's the quality, or maybe it's free of a bug. So for quality assurance, there's actually already a lot of audit and security tool available to check the quality of the smart contract. However, most of the tools are mostly based on manual pattern identification. That means probably you know what may be the bug patterns already. Then the experts, together with certain analysis tool, try to identify what the existing bugs in the new contracts. That can be time-consuming to identify the bug patterns manually. The smart contract also involves in different versions. Maybe different versions will have different bug patterns. How would you easily automatically specify the bug patterns to bug detection? So to make the problem even more challenging, because the Ethereum itself contains many layers. From the top layer, smart contracts, it's mostly about the source code. You can write the Solidity or Viper language to specify the contract. Then you can translate into the bytecode and finally execute on the Ethereum virtual machine. Every layer here can potentially have bugs. Smart contract context program make errors. The compiler got errors. The bytecode exception itself has bugs. And maybe Ethereum virtual machine implementation also have bugs. Even the worst case is the fundamental protocols in the Ethereum can be some design flaws there. So here's a very simple bugs at the source code level. So it's you see it's a buffer overflow. It's an integer overflow. You add a certain value into a integer there. If there's no any restrictions, the hacker can easily overload the integer and that cause potential problems here. So detecting this kind of bugs is probably easy, you can think. But this bug is much harder. It's in the protocol level. So in these cases, because the Ethereum network comprises of many nodes, each node can send a message to other nodes. So if there's a malicious node, send a found node message to other nodes trying to identify what are the neighboring nodes. It can specify a victim's address in the found node message. So when all the recipients of the found node message will forward all the additional message to the victim's address. That could potentially lead a very high message traffic to the victim, so cause potentially denial of service attack to the victim node. So to fix it, it's not that simple. We need to build a bonding between the sender and the recipient of the found node messages. So this is the only partial code to fix it. So, but in essence, there's many different bugs in different layers in the Ethereum blockchain. So that increased the challenge of the bug detection for smart contracts. So for our work, we are trying to utilize all the existing knowledge in big code, internal code, so much open source available already. Even for the protocol bugs, there's an existing project talking about the bonding between sender receivers. That they have already knowledge about what the potential bug patterns there. How can we utilize those existing knowledge without manually specifying all the bugs, re-implementing all the bug detection techniques for the smart contract? So our key ideas, or maybe say called the key hypothesis, is that we check the similarity between various kind of code. If a given piece of code is very similar to some existing bugs among maybe within the Ethereum project itself, or maybe across the whole internal code, then maybe it's very likely to be a bug. That's the key idea of our work. So to implement that idea, the key problem is how do we define the similarity between code, or maybe even some metadata about the code, like a natural language documentation, description about the code, or maybe some design documents, or maybe some API tutorials, etc. The code itself also may be defined in many different languages, Solidity code, or maybe the underlying C code. How can we build a bridge between the similarity between them? Okay. But from a code level, for people who are familiar with the compiler technology, probably it should be easy. So maybe you can measure the code in terms of a textual similarity, syntax tree similarity, dependencies, data flow, control flow, and input, output. Or maybe you look at all the libraries, APIs used in the code to measure their similarities. But does that mean we need to manually engineer the features we are going to use for the similarity measurement? Hopefully it's not. So the general idea is we call that vectorization. So how can we turn all kind of documents, including the code and the natural language documents, into some numerical vectors? Then we know there's many readily available numerical distance metrics, so we can measure the similarity between the vector spaces. Now, in that case, we don't really need all the feature engineering, as long as we have a good definition to represent the documents in the vector spaces. So for people who are familiar with the natural language process techniques, maybe you're familiar with the word embedding techniques. Basically, you can treat English documents or maybe some other language documents in terms of bag of words, or maybe even consider subwords in the document, or maybe consider several consecutive words in the documents, or maybe consider one word skipped through jumping over to a different word, so it's called a skipgram, or maybe n consecutive number of words together. So in this way, potentially you can translate, also called embed, all this word information into vector space. Each of word will become a vector. Okay. Just if you apply these techniques into the code, you can see this is the same example from the integer overflow. And here we basically use simple parsing to convert the code into a sequence of tokens. Then we can apply the natural language processing techniques to convert the sequence tokens into vector spaces. Each of token will become vectors. Then in that sense, we can sum up all the vectors to represent the whole contract, smart contract. But what is different for the code? We know code has much more structural information. This is the syntax tree representing the same sample code. You see the whole thing is a source unit. Then it is a programmer directive, declare the version of the contract, and then define the contract content itself. You can also infer using traditional static analysis techniques to generate the control flow graph, or maybe program dependence graph, or maybe call graph for this kind of code. So the question is, can we utilize all the information to represent the code more accurately so that the vectorization is also more accurate? So as simple illustration, the same code, if we can utilize all the structured information, and say, in this case, in this example, I simply insert all the previous syntax tree node, the pragma directive, and there's a contract path, state variables, elementary type, expression, number, literals. You see, we convert all the structured information from a syntax tree, insert them into the code sequences. So then this code sequence becomes so-called structurally enriched. Then we can apply the same word embedding techniques from natural language processing. Then we can get more rich representation of the code. In that sense, we can generate the vectors representation for tokens, for the statements, for the functions, contracts, as long as we have some way to aggregate all the vector representation for the underlying tokens. So here is just showing a very simple formula to sum up about the vectors for a same piece of code. Then we have the vector representation for each piece of code. Then after we have all the vector generated for the programs, then we can utilize similarity measurement between the numerical vectors. So simple formula we can use based on Euclidean distance. The higher distance between the two vectors, that means the two pieces of code has less similarities. Then based on that, we can have many potential applications. As for this talk, of course, is focused on bug detection, and potentially have code clone detection, code refactoring, code reuses, program translation, or maybe even program migration to different platforms, based on this kind of similarity measures. So we have developed this tool specifically for smart contract. You can see we have collected certain bugs, known bugs, and also large set of source code for the smart contract. We go through the parsers normalization to convert the code into some structure-enriched code sequences. Then we apply the embedding. Then so we can get a vector space for both the buggy code, and the normal code. Then we can measure the similarity between them. Here we can adjust the certain parameter in the similarity checking based on the known bugs. Then we can generate the bug reports. So this can be considered as a training stage. So we adjust the parameter to make sure the bug reports produced there can be quite accurate. Then during the actual bug prediction phases, then given a new piece of a contract, depends on what's your bug detection granularity, we can take each of the statement, excuse me, or maybe the whole contract to convert them into vectors, going through the same process. Then we can compare the vectors for this new piece of contract with the known bug databases on top of the hill. Then we can easily measure, get the similar bug reports, of course, subject to certain false positives. So for our real experiments, we collected about more than 50 real smart contract bugs. So these are the sample smart contract names from real-world open source programs. And this line number indicates what's the buggy location inside each of the contract. We did this a bit manually, so that could be some inaccuracy in the term of line numbers there. Then we also collect more than 22,000 smart contract source code. As I mentioned, although it's called verified, it could still contain bugs because Etherscan doesn't really check the quality there. Then we use two different kind of word embedding techniques. One is called a word-to-vec, another is called a fast text, to build the vector space for the smart contracts. Yeah, so there's also certain parameters. Often we need to experiment, like the dimension of the vectors, or maybe the similarity matrix, similarity threshold we use to determine whether it's similar enough to the known bugs or not. So that's the lot of sensitivity to the potential learning algorithms here. So here's an example to show to illustrate whether this kind of embedding techniques is effective or not. You can see really, like for example, the operators less than, greater than, they are clustered into the similar regions there, indicating they are potentially indicate some similar semantics for the operators. Of course, there's also certain false positive case, like assert. Is it really similar to the simple? Maybe that's also assert statement usually is a simple statement. You can argue maybe they're similar, but maybe you can also argue they are really referring to different things. So this also indicates a potential future research direction that we can utilize more semantic information in the code to enrich the code embedding here. In terms of experiment results, as I mentioned, the similarity threshold will affect the bug detection results a lot. But similarity 1.0, that means the two pieces of code should be almost exact same. except for certain spacing, identify, renaming, etc. Non-essential items there. Then based on this, we can, among the 22,000 contracts, we found more than 100 bugs, which are similar to the known 50 bugs we collected. Of course, there are also additional bugs we can detect by using lower semantic threshold. The precision still remains high, maybe around 88%, as long as we use a high enough semantic threshold. This in practice, probably this also some parameters threshold we need to train during the training phase to choose what is the best one to use. And of course, it's also based on the known bug database. We collect about 50 bugs we used. If you have a lot of existing bugs in your own company or maybe project, you can use your own bug database to train the similarity threshold. They'll probably will perform better for your project too. Okay. So as we were saying, we are trying to advocate the structural embedding, right? So in comparison with the normal embedding, normal word embedding that without the structured information, you can see the embedding with the structured information performs much better than the one without. Also give us hope if we can encode more semantic information into the embedding, probably the quality assurance bug detection effect can be much further improved. Also, as a side product, it's also because of similarity measurement, you can easily find the clones. Right? So based on this number, depends on similarity measure you use again, and the different code granularity look. There's it could be up to 90% similar code in a smart contract. You know, as a normal program, like for example, Linux kernel, there may be 20 to 25 duplicate code. That's already introduced a lot of maintenance code in a Linux kernel. So for smart contract, this more than 90% clone rate that indicates a much optimization, maintenance work should have done to the Ethereum blockchain. But that's for our future work. Okay. So as a kind of a conclusion, so we're advertising a so-called vectorization. It's a unified framework to represent and analyze code across different layers. So vectorization is very similar to embedding, but we advocate to a combination of a traditional static and dynamic techniques. Probably you can utilize all the information we can extract from code using analysis techniques together with the deep learning techniques. Hopefully, that will improve the state of art of quality insurance for smart contract or even more general software. So the key problems here, as I mentioned at the beginning, so it depends on the text, syntax, functionality, semantics of code, or maybe some library used. Further, we should also consider the metadata. Metadata here, what I mean is the like code change history, or maybe bug reports, execution profiles, developer discussion forums, user feedback, etc. Those may be also available from the software repositories, or maybe the virtual control systems. All the information can be utilized to represent the code better. Now, in terms of learning technology itself, we are currently focused on converting all the code into a sequences. But we can actually utilize all the information in a syntax tree or maybe dependence graph directly. So here are some references to our latest work, especially dependence tree-based convolutional neural network and the tree capture network that will encode the trees utilizing the spatial relationship between the variable declaration, variable uses. So we are not restricted to the consecutiveness in code sequences. Then the dependency in the graphs, also a very interesting topic for future research. We are working on that. Also welcome your feedback and potential collaborations. So as in this talk, the actual study, we focus on the source code level smart contract. As I mentioned, the whole challenge is really check through the whole stack for the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem across different layers. So that we're proposing using this vectorization across not just the code itself, also across all the metadata. Probably it will involve certain different representation and then slightly different vectorization techniques. And then maybe utilizing the internal code, big code, then we can compare with the new code with existing code to reuse the knowledge there for quality assurances. So in that way, we don't have to manually specify all the bug patterns or redevelop all the bug detection tools for new programs too. Okay. Hopefully that gives you an idea where we can share and collaborate to improve the quality of the future of contracting. So just a quick advertisement for our research lab here. So as Vivi mentioned, we are focused on software engineering, mining, and analysis. We are trying to utilize some artificial intelligence techniques to improve the software engineering techniques too. So we are also in a reverse direction. That means also using software engineering techniques to improve the reliability and security of intelligent systems too. We are actively hiring many postdocs, research engineer, PhD students. Welcome to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm very happy to take your questions. Okay, I'll go check my chat window, see if any question there. Okay, no questions? Okay. Again, thank you for your attention and welcome to message us, contact us if you have further questions after the talk.
Sorry, Ling Xiao, there's a question.
Okay, I don't see the question.
Prof. Chen, the question is
the
question,
the approach is applicable to any code, right? Not necessarily just contract. Yes. So what we did is applicable to focus on source code level. So the source code implementation for the smart contract, source code implementation for the Ethereum virtual machines, the C code, the C++ code, and also many Python code, PHP code, or the same idea can be applicable. Although the way you generate the syntax tree may be different, you need different tools. But if we want to talk about the binary code, it's a bit more troublesome because the structural information in the binary is a bit hard to extract. And building a control flow dependency graph from the bytecode also a bit more troublesome. But I think there's also promises that this same idea can be applicable too, which may require further research. But the benefit is that if it's applicable, then we can link all the language in different layers together. We can do a full scale, full stack bug quality checks.
Are there other questions for Ling Xiao? Okay, if not, thank you again, Ling Xiao, for giving the talk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So any other questions, I think you can still approach Prof after the talk. after the event. I mean, you can, if you don't have his contacts, you can also contact the consortium and we can connect you to him. All right, then we will move on to the next presenter. Sorry, let me introduce Stanislav first. Okay, so our next speaker is Stanislav Protasov from Acronis. He's the technology president and co-founder with more than 20 years of experience in global software development, from developing and designing system and application software to creating and developing globally remote engineering teams that effectively take part in the general software development process. So Stanislav is known for his innovation activities in the fields of virtualization and cloud computing. According to USPTO, he is the co-author of 148 issued patent applications in software development, distribution systems, virtualization technologies and algorithms, and other IT systems. So you can see all the fields that he has the expertise in for you to connect with him. And he became especially well known in management circles for his unique capabilities to grow and retain employees. So you can also read the rest of the experience that he has on the screen. So without further ado, I will invite Stanislav to do the presentation. Please, Stanislav.
Thank you, Vivi. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everybody for joining. And special thank you to Professor Lin Zhao, because I enjoyed the previous talk. Let me share my slides. Hopefully you can see my screen. So I will be talking about what we do, how we understand cyber protection, what we see happening in cyberspace right now, and some potential areas for collaboration, because actually our success always depended on our work with universities across the globe, with academia, because this is where technology is being born, when academia meets industry. So Acronis is a leader in cyber protection. We have dual headquarters. We were founded in Singapore 17 years ago. And Singapore is our international and business headquarters. Our corporate headquarters are in Switzerland, and we choose Singapore and Switzerland very carefully. Both countries are neutral, and for the company who is working in cyber space, it's quite important to be politically neutral, because our goal is to protect data. We are fast growing, especially our cloud products and services are growing very fast despite various issues in the global economy. We have partners and customers all over the world. We sell in more than 150 countries. We are a global company. We have 33 locations all over the world, and we are about 1,500 employees worldwide. So what problem we are trying to solve? Right now, the complexity of the digital space is growing very rapidly. It's expected by analysts that there would be 500 billion of different devices in use in next 7 to 10 years. And all those devices, they need to be protected, they need to be managed, And this has increased the complexity exponentially. The cost of managing digital space is also increasing very fast, because right now pretty much all the businesses understand the value of the data, and as such typical scenario is that company increases the data they need to care about at least twice a year. And this situation is not going to slow down, at least for now. Also, security is the biggest concern because there are multiple state-sponsored or cyber criminal groups all over the world, which actually becoming an industry. So there is labor separation in such groups. There are people who actually search for exploits. There are people who create the exploits. There are people who are buying them and using them. So security is the concern for pretty much everyone, especially when all our devices are now connected to the internet like 24 hours a day. Privacy is definitely a huge concern right now, because as we are connected all the time, actually even pieces of information can be used to identify a particular person even if the name or age or country is hidden, you still can actually identify a particular person. And as such, digital world is becoming the fifth basic human necessity, together with air, shelter, water, and food. Basically, we can see right now, even talking today virtually, that without IT, we could not keep our lives running anymore. So, what is cyber protection? Cyber protection is safety, accessibility, privacy, authenticity, and security. So you have to keep your data safe. You need to have several copies of your data, because there are multiple scenarios when you can lose your data. It includes like hardware failure, human mistake, cyber criminal attack, and so on and so forth. So you need to have several copies of your data. And you need to have a way to access your data from anywhere when you need it. So accessibility is becoming very important. You need to have a privacy, you need to control your privacy, and this is actually a big issue for all software companies, and not only software companies, all over the world, because even governments right now are taking measures to regulate privacy issues in many countries. In Europe, there are regulations on the European Union level, GDPR. In Singapore, we have Personal Data Act, and in the United States right now it's ongoing work, and it's going to be here quite soon, and so on and so forth. Authenticity, also very important issue, because if you have a copy of your data, how do you know that it's actually exactly those data which you uploaded some time ago? It's very important for you, for example, if you have important contract or agreement, to be sure that this contract or agreement was not modified either unintentionally or intentionally via cyber attack. And security, it's protections from bad actors. So this is how we understand cyber protection. And this is our products. Actually, it's more like layers of our product, because in Acronis Cyber Protection, we have Acronis Cyber Cloud, which allows us to sign up and manage our partners. We have Acronis Cyber Platform, which allows us to develop new services and also to invite ASVs and software vendors and our partners to enhance our platform and provide the services they need. Acronis Cyber Infrastructure is actually ground level of our solution. It allows you to safely and redundantly keep your data. It also provides you with the services, basic services like compute and so on and so forth. And Acronis Cyber Services, it's our way to educate our partners, and because actually understanding how to ensure that your data are secure is also extremely important. So you basically need to understand what does it mean penetration testing, what does it mean like forensic research and things like that. So we have cyber services where we educate people, where we help them to enhance their environment, and where we help them to build additional services they need. So a little bit about current situation. COVID-19 actually introduced another spike in cyber attack. I think you all are reading professional and general newspapers, and you can see that actually malicious actors are using the current situation in order to find additional vectors of attack, and they are not staying idle. Some information from our own cyber protection operation centers. We have a number of them because we follow the Sun model. We have Cyber Protection Operations Center here in Singapore, we have in Switzerland, we have in the United States. So indeed, remote access and work from home change the attack surface significantly. Number of attacks indeed increased, and also current economic situation in many cases does not allow companies to react in sufficient way to changing the environment. What else is happening? Actually many companies are working from home right now. For example, in Acronis, we have like 33 locations. Pretty much all of them are working from home right now. In Singapore, we are in the list of essential services, but still out of 150 people actually out of 200 people here in Singapore, we have like 12 people who can continue working from the office, and this is only for the services which sometimes could not be done remotely. So essentially, all our company working from home right now. And this leads to an interesting situation that many companies have to do the transformation to the fact that perimeter-based security is not applicable anymore right now and as soon as possible. So indeed, COVID-19 is the true leader of current flow of digital transformation. And also, basically, many analysts predict that a traditional approach when you connect to your perimeter via VPN, and after that you immediately considered to be safe and secure actor on internal network, will phase out quite soon in favor of zero trust. I don't think that VPN software will cease to exist. Frankly, I think that VPN software will definitely have another opportunities to grow. But basically, VPN software will stop being a decisive factor of whether you are secure or not. A little bit about zero trust architecture. So there are many different approaches to zero trust architecture, but essentially there are two fundamental principles where everybody are in agreement. First of all, you have to have unified and fine-grained application level access control. And second is that hardware credential storage will become essential for authentication. So just a little bit, instead of traditional approach to the security when you have a perimeter, and if you are inside internal network, basically you already trusted and you already can access pretty much every service. Right now we have to work in the environment when you could not trust anyone unless proven the identity and unless proven that you have required privileges. So National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States are very close to what they call special publication on zero trust architecture. And as soon as they are done with it, I think the speed of changing in favor of zero trust architecture will definitely increase. And I don't think that traditional network security architecture will disappear magically in the nearest time in the future, because there are a lot of investment there. And basically, even with traditional network architecture, you still can build a very secure solution. But I think that new systems and new software, they will be definitely built with zero trust in mind. So now, in case of Acronis, when we have cloud services and cloud products, basically I would divide potential attack vectors in three big chunks. First of all, it's definitely software, social engineering. Social engineering is the most difficult part of the security, because it depends on human. And you can see some numbers we did in our trainings on phishing. And it was not the first run, so we had several internal webinars which all our employees had to pass through. We had Q&A session with our Chief Information Security Officer, and so on and so forth. Fortunately, it's also not the last run of this phishing experiment. But actually, as you can see, people still, the attack was simulated really brilliantly. We hired a good company, very experienced in various penetration testing techniques. And actually, when I received the email, first I thought myself that it's internal email. But still, you can see 10% of our guys clicked on it, and 5% even entered their credentials. So that part you should not underestimate. You should actually constantly run such trials, and you should constantly train your team, because those attacks are going to be more complicated, more realistically looking, and so on and so forth. And definitely from technical standpoint, basically there are not so many ideas how to protect yourself from such attacks. Essentially, 2FA is the major way to somehow mitigate those things. Second is cloud security. So basically, you need to have security of your data centers. You need to have some protection policies from bad actors in both your team and team of your suppliers, data center staff, and such on. And you need to think about man-in-the-middle attacks and so on and so forth. And software security. Indeed, every software has bugs. And those bugs can be intentional and unintentional. Frankly, I think that intentionally created bugs in software security is maybe a bit overrated in the sense that from my experience working with many engineering teams, I can see that actually unintentionally created things, just forgotten things, happens way more often than intentional attacks. But you still have to think about both of them. So just a couple of the example of the software security issues. You heard about Huawei, and basically I think that stands true for many companies in the world. That when you have a big engineering team spread it around multiple cities or countries, you have so many code being created that actually number of bugs in the code is overwhelming, and that creates an issue with your software security. And crypto AG case, when it's believed that it's intentionally left backdoor. Frankly, I'm not so convinced that it's intentionally left backdoors. I think it could be like they did it. At least I can believe very strong that current crypto AG engineering team and even management, they might actually never thought that they have this backdoor. I don't know, was it initially created intentionally or for testing purposes or whatever way, but definitely knowing how it happens when you evolve your software, it could be just forgotten quite easily, because those people who created that backdoor, they definitely not with the company anymore. for many years. So what do you do as a software vendor when you want to actually minimize number of security issues in your software? Definitely, at first, you need to have secure architecture. You need to have architecture office. You need to train your software developers because software developer, he wants to create things, and as such, security requirements quite often are just side thing he has to think about, and you need to train to explain why it's important to keep security in mind all the time. You definitely need to have internal code review, and basically, if you want to protect yourself from potential implanted backdoors or security issues, because in many cases, if you want to plant a bug in some software, the easiest way is to go to that company, get somehow a job in this company, and implant the security issue in the code. So how you can work with that situation? Well, you need to have internal code review, and you better, especially if you have multiple distributed R&D offices, you better to have that internal code review using somehow randomly selected developers to review that code from security standpoint. It definitely is definitely not a silver bullet either, but it minimizes the chances to implant security issues by bad actors. We keep our main source code repository in Switzerland, and we use actually a secure channel to transfer the code to main repository. We run different static and dynamic testing software on our code to identify security and general issues in the code. And we regularly do external security audit, both black box and white box audits. We use different companies for that, from different countries, because if you stick with one vendor, eventually at some point they will stop finding new issues. And we do that approximately twice a year, because usually such projects for external security audit takes between 1 and 2 months. Now a little bit about cloud security. On that slide, I show only big data centers, so the data centers where we have multiple pages. And as you can see, they are mostly deployed all over the world. In some countries, like in China, we run our services and software through local partner. Surprisingly, but I learned actually just recently that our data center of our partners in Wuhan. But our data is still secure. So, in cloud security, what is important? You have multiple encryptions of the data all the way. The basic encryption should happen at your storage. So your data at rest should be encrypted. Our Acronis cyber infrastructure is actually a distributed system which keeps blocks of data in a redundant way on multiple servers, but still all those data are being encrypted by us. And if, for example, one of the servers or one of the hard drives will be stolen, it's practically impossible to retrieve any customer data. Our cyber cloud talks to end user, and the data is encrypted in two ways here. First of all, definitely all the communication we are using encrypted channels, protecting ourselves from man-in-the-middle attack. And second, we strongly suggest our partners and customers using the encryption when sending data to us. And that encryption, we do not have a key. And if customer will lose a key, we have no way to help them and no way to retrieve the data. That creates a number of interesting challenges. I will be talking a little bit later about some of them. So, what technology projects we are working on in different areas of securing our software? We are working with the team from Schaffhausen Institute of Technology. Also, some team members are working for Italian University. We have two projects with them. One of them is creating automated test cases using machine learning. And one of them is actually similar to what we just learned about. It's automated bug detection. Actually, if I may suggest, it could be an interesting project where we definitely would want to participate, not only to find bugs automatically using machine learning techniques, but also trying to fix those bugs. Bugs also automatically using the same techniques, because bug fix on average takes 30 times more effort than writing the code itself. And it's average statistics across the global that in 1,000 lines of code from the design to QA stages of development, developers create about 70 bugs. And it's extremely costly for the industry to fix those bugs. The other projects we are doing here in Singapore with Nanyang Technological University, it's very interesting projects called Secure Multi-Party Computation. The idea is quite simple. When different industries need to exchange the data, but they could not exchange the data without compromising sensitive information. Why it's interesting for us? Definitely, we are not going to move into the business like finance or banking. But in our case, actually, the ability to work with encrypted data is becoming extremely important. And one of the service we want to provide to our partners and customers is business intelligence. And we have many customers, many partners, they have a lot of information, and definitely for them it's interesting to understand how they perform in comparison with industry general. Like, for example, if a partner customer acquisition grows like 10%, is it good or bad? how other competitors are growing. And definitely, they do not want to share their own data with their competitors. It could be used against them. But aggregated information, they actually will participate. And the question, if I essentially encrypt all my data and do not provide an access to those data, how I can get the aggregated business intelligence out of that data together with my competitors or partners or clients. As such, we have huge hope for this research. First stage is completed. It's ongoing research, and I think it could end up in a number of very interesting technologies. One more example of machine learning related research which we do with our European partners is using the information from all our data centers across the globe to predict some issues in the data centers. Like when you can expect incident and using the general operation statistics like CPU load, network traffic, temperature of the hard drive, and things like that. Quantum technologies research. I think it will become quite important for pretty much every software and hardware companies quite soon. We don't know when a quantum computer will appear. Some people say like in the next 5 years, some people say in the next 10 years. What we know for sure that quantum computer is going to be here after some time. And as such, we should prepare now, because the data you use right now, the data you encrypt right now by traditional encryption algorithms, those data are being kept by network providers, by maybe some state-sponsored security research groups, and so on and so forth. And as soon as quantum computing will become a commodity, definitely those data will be decrypted quite soon. So actually, improving the encryptions and improving the resistance of your data protection to quantum algorithm is quite important to do now. And so we are very interested in joint researches in that field. Though it's quite early researches at this stage, for us at least. Blockchain, that actually the projects we are doing for quite some time. We use blockchain technology for ensuring the authenticity of the data. So we don't need to have the document or file content. We just need to ensure that we have good checksum on the piece of information, and then we use blockchain to keep this checksum. So that gives a good probability that you can verify your data not being modified by mistake or some cybersecurity attack. And it's ongoing research, because we think that blockchain technology will be used for things like, for example, fighting against fake news is becoming an issue, and essentially with the development of the technologies when you can use some public person video and put the sound you want to put on, and you can actually even create different situations. The ability to distinguish between fake news and true news are going to increase in importance multiple times. So we are very interested to find some partners who will be doing such researches on blockchain technologies with us for future use. Social engineering. So we are doing a couple of researches, and we are also very interested in cooperation. First of all, it's data loss research, and oh, sorry guys. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it happens working from home. So data loss prevention, and here we can use machine learning techniques to understand the type of information, searching for potential passwords, because a lot of people are just keeping all their passwords in plain text files on their Windows desktop. And we can use machine learning techniques just to stop sharing this information with potential attackers. And keystroke analysis. Actually, surprisingly, but it's enough for you to type around 10 characters, and machine learning could actually find a pattern and tell that something wrong with you. Either you have potential physical condition which is abnormal, or it's not you who are trying to log into the system. Quite interesting research which can be used in cases to protect your data, even if your credentials were stolen. So just to recap, cyber protections, it includes from data protection to cyber security, also privacy and authenticity. The number of new technologies required to cyber protect your data is enormous. There are going to be a lot of additional developments and researches, because essentially we are trying to deal with contradicting requirements. One of them is that we have to exchange the data to provide more services to our customers. And the second of them is that we should not look into those data. Those data should be inaccessible to us if it's our client's data and not ours. And as such, there are multiple ways to enhance the technologies, and there are multiple research dimensions. That's it for today. Here you can see my email. If you have any idea, if you want to collaborate with us, we are very open. Do not hesitate to send me email, and let's discuss potential options. Thank you.
Hi Stanislav, thank you. So we have a few questions at the meeting chat window.
Okay.
If you look at the meeting chat window, yeah, there are 3 questions right now.
Okay, let me try to see them. The first question, Hi, this is Jen from NTU Scripts. Would like to ask regarding SMPC, as we are always ask questions about that SMPC computation require low latency network and usually can only run in centralized data center. May I know how SMPC can be practically deployed nowadays? From what I understand, probably with 5G networking, that SMPC can be deployed practically in multi or hybrid cloud environment. That's a good question. Basically, our understanding that indeed the first SMPC application would be in centralized data centers, whether it's, if for example, Singapore government will use these technologies for some data exchange with financial or healthcare or whatever industry, they definitely will run it in their own data center. In our case, we also think that at the point when we will start using the technology, and we are far from that. Frankly, I think it's probably 2 to 4 quarters away before we can use the technology as a part of our product. But I think we will use it centralized. 5G networking could improve it, but I'm not sure that 5G networking is so important for SMPC because essentially your multiple clouds, they are still going to be connected not through mobile networking, but different data centers. They can have low latency and high bandwidth even if they are being deployed in different countries. You can buy the bandwidth and latency quite easily from telco operators. The second question, one of the VPN value proposition is the security from the tunneling. May I understand how would zero trust technology facilitate this? Well, yes, that one proposition. The other proposition is that you can actually route all your network traffic through VPN connection. And as such, you can actually continue using your company firewalls, whether it's traditional firewalls or next generation firewalls, and infrastructure to control what is going on. Zero trust technology is not going to facilitate this. My point is quite different. I do not think that VPN will stop existing. I think that maybe VPN protocols will change to accommodate recent attack vectors on VPN software and things like that. But right now, VPN for many companies is actually the last point when the company decides whether you are outsider or you are insider. And this will be changed with zero trust technology. VPN will allow you to do multiple things. And for example, it can potentially allow you to create virtual perimeter if you wish. I mean, imagine right now, all the workers in some Singapore company who used to work from the office, right now all of them are working from home and they are not protected by the company perimeter. If they are using correctly configured VPN software, their edge devices essentially can become like a virtual perimeter. So VPN technologies are not going to disappear one day. It's good technology, quite useful, but zero trust actually will stop rely on VPN when understanding that you are good or bad actor. Thank you for insightful talk on cyber protection and impact of the current COVID-19 situation. In the post-COVID-19 world, in your opinion, what is the most pressing cyber challenges and research gap that the researchers should focus on showing? Well, from my standpoint, actually, indeed, the most important thing which COVID-19 brought in is that right now, edge security and edge as the attack target is becoming more and more important. And in traditional configuration, when you have the perimeter, you actually can let yourself not to worry much about configuration of the particular workstation. Like 5 years ago, most companies thought that if you have Active Directory for authentication of your users, and if you have a VPN for remote work, you're quite secure. You should worry only about your perimeter and your firewall. That is changing. Right now, you're not secure. First of all, when you're inside your perimeter, you have a very good and often very professional team of IT and information security guys who can actually take care of you. Right now, you are sitting at home. You might use a shared computer with your kids or your relatives. They might install some software there. Your Wi-Fi is connected to potentially non-secure channel. You don't know that very well. Your Wi-Fi router could be not secure. It could be not updated, and there is existing 1 day or even 2 day exploits. I'm not talking about 0 day. That's extremely important. Right now, number of attacks on edge devices will increase dramatically. And as such, protecting the edge and not trusting to anyone unless proven to be a good actor is becoming extremely important. Does Acronis look into cybersecurity for OT? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand what is OT.
I think the questioner means operational technology. So if not, then Kok Wai, please clarify.
Yeah, and operational technology means like processes and practices or what? Please clarify if you can.
Kok Wai, maybe you can unmute yourself and clarify your question, like what aspect of
like EOT. Okay.
Okay.
We are looking into that. It's a new area. We are basically not yet protecting EOT devices, but yes, it's going to be huge. And as soon as standards will appear, we definitely looking into cybersecurity. It's a very good question because a lot of cameras, a lot of printers and such devices are not secure at all. Fortunately, right now, most people at least have passwords on their Windows systems, and policy for those passwords are quite often defined by Active Directory. But most printers are coming with factory settings. The same for cameras. And that's becoming a huge security threat and potential attack vendors. Surprisingly, it's less popular among cyber criminals, but we see a lot of activity from state actors and state security agencies. So yes, we are very interested, but we do not do a lot in this area. And if, for example, you participate in that, we are ready to talk. How would DLP with machine learning detect data in use like homomorphic encryption? That's a very good question. I don't have an answer to that. And basically, any kind of research which we can do could be quite useful. But basically, we think that on edge side, on endpoint side, most customers, they are not using homomorphic encryption. They can use it when they, for example, back up their data to our data centers. And here, the situation is similar with search and indexing. I mean, for example, if you want to provide your customers an ability to search through the data you keep for them, how do you do that if all the data are encrypted? Very simple, you create index on client side. Before uploading the data, you create index and you transfer this index as well encrypted to the data center together with your data. And then if customer wants to search through his data, you just ask him for his secret, and you temporarily decrypt the index and you run the search. Here, I think it could be used in a similar way. Okay, I think no more questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Stanislav, for the interesting presentation and also responses to the question. And thanks all for participating in the discussion. Okay, so now we will move on to the last item of the event, which is the seed grant call that I will present. Okay, so I believe everyone can see the slides now. Before I start, just to highlight that all the information that I present here are included in the information sheet and basically the application packages that we will send out later after the event is over this afternoon. So if you are in the eligible you are part of the eligible parties, as later you will see our usual members, then you will receive the package. But of course, if you are interested, you can always contact us also to get the documents and consider fulfilling the eligibility criteria. So the objectives of the seed grant call, this has remained consistent from our first call, which is to address gaps in the cybersecurity landscape of Singapore, strengthen the capabilities for present and future threats, and also to leverage the collaborative effort of different sectors in the consortium, because here we are meant to be a platform where we bring together academics, industry, and also the government agencies. So in terms of eligibility, for the grant, we will need a host institution to apply, which is the part of the IHLs or the RIs, the local institutes of higher learning and research institutes, where there should be a lead PI, and also there can be co-PIs from the same IHL or RI or from other IHL or RI. And then for the application also should be a joint application with a partner. So the partner should be one of the member companies of our consortium. the membership, we put a cutoff date here, which is 29 May. So if there are new companies, as in if there are companies who are not yet members, but they are interested to participate after listening to this presentation, then you may approach us to become members, and then you will be eligible before 29th of May. And of course, the membership should also be maintained throughout the project duration that is proposed for the grant. So when a partner institution apply together with the host institution, there should be a co-PI, a representative who will be appointed as the co-principal investigator to manage the participation from the partner company. So optionally here, we can have a collaboration. You can have collaboration with public agencies, but here we highlight that the grant is not applicable to the public agencies. So in this case, public agencies will need to self-fund their participation. And of course, not only agencies, but if you want to involve collaborators from other international entities, you may do so. And the collaborators, again, is not receiving any funding under this grant. So some notes on the on this eligibility side. So as before, we allow postdoctorate researchers to be the principal investigators. So there will be a few administrative checks that we need to complete, that the postdoctorate researchers has the support required to lead the project to completion, and of course also the capability and experience in leading projects. And and also apart from the IHLRI company partnership, we do have some allowance for IHLRI and public agency partnership without any company. This is mainly because we have seen some problem statements that are mostly for deployment to agencies and with probably limited commercialization on that side. However, as you mentioned, that this will require strong justification to compete with the default partnership of IHLRI and industry. So in terms of project scope, we are looking for proposals that develop technical solutions, study non-trivial issues, explore new ideas. So these are the kind of developments that can be supported under this grant. With the target of deployment in companies or agencies, commercialization, or leading to larger projects under NCR. So I think you have seen something like this in Prof. Abik's introduction slide. The TRL is between 4 to 8 at the end of the project. This is what we are targeting. So it can be new ideas that you develop into a prototype at the lab, proven at the lab level, or it can be a more mid-level research that you develop until it is ready for commercialization or deployment. So of course, for the first case where it is leading to a prototype, then we hope that it can be aligned with the NCR, the National Cybersecurity R&D Program, so that you have the chance to probably get larger grants to develop it. Of course, this is not guaranteed, so we will be looking for proposals that really identify what is your end goal, whether it will be achieved in this project or it can be a step towards achieving that end goal of deployment or commercialization. Right, so in terms of research themes, these are the themes that we have been discussing in the consortium, so we are putting this up. Some of the discussions points that you can see what are the members interested in. Of course, there will also be other interests that you may have ideas on, and you may always apply with that ideas. So I mentioned here that we have compiled a list of research topics from a few of the academic side. The purpose of this is because traditionally we have the Wild and Crazy Ideas Day, but due to the current situation, it is a little bit difficult to arrange that kind of brainstorming sessions. So instead, we are compiling the interested topics where people are looking for partners, so that we will send it out together with the call documents, so that if you are industry, you are part of the industry, if you are interested in any such topics in those lists, then you can contact the person that put up those topics. or you can also come to us to be introduced, to be connected to the people. And of course, if you also have problem statements yourself, you can always come to us for matchmaking after this. Okay, now in terms of the funding scope, so the funding period is between 6 to 18 months. So very typical is a 12 months project that we support. In terms of quantum, is up to 150K on a reimbursement basis. So this is counting the direct costs. For the funding rate, it's up to 100% support of qualifying costs for the IHL and RI. The same rate for companies, except there's a cap at 99,999, basically below 100K. So there'll be a funding guide attached to the package where that lists out what cannot be funded and what are the qualifying costs, basically. So you can refer to those for the complete list and details. Here we have indirect research funding, but for IHL RI only, 20%, which is the standard rate. And so I would highlight one thing new in this call from previous years is the required industry contribution. So we decide to, as in the committees have decided that this would be a good way for industry to show their contribution to the project in a more mainstream way. Because of course, we have seen in the past proposals, the companies who apply have also listed out some of the what they plan to do, the values that they bring up. So I think this way will make it a bit more mainstream, make it a bit clearer for everyone to properly justify the value that they bring to the table. So here there's a minimum of 30,000 contribution, which can be in cash or in kind from the partner company side. So there will be in the template that you will receive for the application, you will have all the fields to fill up about this. Basically, it's in terms of cash contribution, it will also be used towards the project. So the budgeting for the project should also take into account the cash that is contributed from the company. If the contribution is in kind, also there should be some kind of listing, a clear listing about the valuation so that it can be judged for eligibility purpose. And then same as previously, the experimentation and validation can be supported by the National Cybersecurity R&D Lab, NCL, and also the SUTD iTrust laboratories. So there will be the information sheet on these two also will be included in the documents. And yeah, there will be also link to their respective websites for you to find out more. And then there will be contact points for you to discuss if you have very specific needs to be supported. This is so meaning if there are validation needs that can be fulfilled through this national shared infrastructure, then we will not be able to further provide funding under the grant for that kind of purposes. Yeah, so important dates. Today we will open the submission. I think this afternoon we will send out the documents. So after that, the portal is also open for you to submit. And it will close on 29th of June, 5 p.m. Then here we will have some, we will try to invite all the proposals for presentation. So we will see, we will check for eligibility, and please be prepared for us to contact you if we need any clarifications. So for example, if you submit early and then we find that you have not submitted some supporting documents, we can contact you first so that you can fulfill it before the submission closes. And also after the submission closes, there may be certain clarifications we need from you, then we may contact you at this period. So the presentation currently, the plan will be around week 3 or 4 of August. And after that, we will proceed with the rest of the evaluation and approvals, and you can expect notifications by 10th of September. If there is any revision required to the proposals in order to finalize the approval, then you will be notified, and then we will ask for you to submit the finalization within 7 days. And then the grant award will be 18 September by that date. So after you receive the official award, for those who are successful, then there will be some steps for award acceptance. And here we will also expect the parties to set up the research collaboration agreement and have it in place before the project start, which we will propose around November 2020. Yeah, so in terms of evaluation, this is a one-stage selection process, meaning please submit the full proposals for this grant. The evaluation criteria, so there will be on the problem significance or the potential impact of the solution. So this is the top priority here. Of course, the quality of approach project plans also should be made clear. Technical competencies of the team. So in the proposal template, you will have all the spaces to justify who are the team, what are they trying to do, and what is the like that you have assembled the teams with the right competencies to conduct the project. And quality of collaboration across sectors. So of course, we expect that the different sectors, the academics, the industry, all have roles and values to contribute to the project. And then translation strategy. So this is, as I mentioned before, the end goal should be towards deployment, commercialization, or if that is a bit far, if you are thinking more of an early stage research, then you should still identify what is the endpoint for that and what is basically the stepping stone, the milestone that will be reached at the end of the project for you to carry it forward. So if that's the case, then any post-project plans, please also make it clear in the proposal so that the evaluation panel can make an assessment of that. And then value from industry partnership. So again, this is probably a bit related to the quality of collaboration, because with the partnership, we expect that the industry is bringing a lot of expertise to the table too. So know-how, any data that you can provide to the research, any commercialization effort. And then finally, it will be the industry contributions in cash or in kind. So in this case, there is, you remember from the previous slide, there is a required minimum contribution. Here, if everything is equal and if there are really competing proposals that we are having a hard time choosing between, then the cash contribution may be taken in a bit higher weightage than the in-kind. So this is in the case where really all else equal. Right, so I should mention some prerequisite for the award on the intellectual property side. So there is also a new requirement for this stage. So project IP ownership, this one doesn't change, which it shall be determined by agreement among project parties. So generally, I think depending on your institution policies, generally by inventorship, of course, companies have your own policies and HR guidelines about that. But for efforts funded under this grant, then we will require that if the partner company has would like a joint ownership of the IP with the host institution on top of the inventorship principles and other principles. So we would ask the host institution to verify that there is a cash contribution from the partner company which is at least 30% of project funding. So this is, if assuming is the 150 quantum all used up, this may be a different number of the 30K earlier. But yeah, you can do the calculation if this is really the case that you are aiming for. All right, then in the second case, if it's not a joint ownership, but the partner company would like an exclusive licensing of the IP that is owned by the host institution, then the host institution will be required to check that there is at least 30% of in-kind contribution from the partner company in this case. And apart from that, so since the grantor here, meaning our consortium office and also NRF and CR, will track the IP that has been produced in the project, as well as how they are commercialized, how they're exploited. So institutions should maintain a documentation on that, and where we require we would like to know how it has been useful, how the grant has helped you, then we may ask you for the information. Yeah, in terms of project review and monitoring, if it is awarded, then we will have the periodic progress reports and budget claims that the interval will be set when you receive the award. So, but for the proposal, it should include at least 6 monthly milestones. So this is to facilitate review. Of course, depending on the actual duration that you propose, you may have your own optimal milestones. So generally, it should be at least 6 monthly. If you have more often, that is also fine. And of course, the review during the review periods, then it should be the progress should be compared against these milestones, and the final report will be requested within 2 months of the end date. But again, all this will be in the actual award if the project is if the proposal is awarded. Yeah, so lastly, for the application, it will be an online submission. So this is the portal. This will all be included, of course, in the documents that we will send, so you don't have to take it down now. And all the templates will be provided. So we also ask you to please follow the templates in preparing it. So one is the full proposal itself in PDF form. So anything you have, any info you have, you put it inside this full proposal, attach the CV and everything in one file. Any confidential material, if you think that it will help if you have the proposal, you do include it, but please mark it clearly. So in particular, like for the summary, I think it may be made public when we announce the awards if it's selected. So please don't put any confidential material there. But other than that, please just mark whatever is confidential so that we make sure to treat it appropriately. So other than that, there's a budget form in Excel. So here will be where you should specify. There are 3 kinds here. So there's a funding request that will be funded from the grant. And then if there is any cash contribution from the industry, how it will be utilized. And then finally, the in-kind contribution. So of course, the cash and in-kind contribution should add up to the minimum that is explained earlier. Right, so yeah, that is all about the grant call details. So we, of course, will help you find partners if you have not identified the partners, because this requires a joint application. And any other queries, we welcome you to write to us. Yeah, so if there's any quick questions, also I can address it now on the meeting chat, and I will also hang around for a bit if you have. But for the details of the administration of the grant itself later on, I think it's better for you to wait for the documents to be sent out, because all the details that you need to know at this stage will be there, and then you can always contact us for more clarifications later. So thank you. So I will check the meeting chat. Okay, one comment. So it would be good to submit proposals where the reasonableness of the budget can be argued. So even though there's a cap for maximum budget, applicants do not need to submit a proposal with the maximum possible budget if that amount cannot be justified. Okay, yeah, thank you for the point, Prof. Abik. So this is, yeah, meaning please ensure that the budget request that you put up in the proposal is justifiable, because if it's not something that is justifiable, we will also just end up cutting it out. So so that is something you may want to take note in the budget. So yeah. So if you have questions, please feel free to type in the meeting chat, I mean, sorry, yeah. Apart from that, since this is the last item for the event, if you have any feedback about how the event has been run, especially because now it's virtual, we do feel that there is a bit limited, as in normally in our physical events, you can, after the event, you can break off and talk to people. So that is a bit limited now. But of course, we try to support you in terms of if you want to contact certain people, if you have topics that you want to discuss in particular, then you can let us know, and then we help you in that respect. So if you have any feedback, please also feel free to type it in the meeting chat. I have a question from Wong Kok Wai here. If a proposal has been rejected by another agency without stating the reason, so that means that it has not been funded by other parties, so you can still apply for the grant call. So I think here we, in the proposal template, we have also put a section, because this is from experience, this may happen where you have a related research that has been funded elsewhere. And then even though you know that you yourself know that the research the application you're putting out for us is clearly separate from that one, but maybe there are information there that we do not know. So that in the proposal you can actually clearly specify if there are anything you want to declare, basically anything you want to declare that I have this current research, it's funded, but there is a very critical differentiation. That's why this is not a duplicate. So you can justify that. Yeah, Kok Wai, I hope that addressed your question. So any other question I can address right now? Okay, if not, I will still hang around here. So, but for the rest of you, if you have no questions, then thank you for participating in the event. So again, please type your feedback in the meeting chat. Is there any other administrative point that you would like us to improve in the next one? Or of course, the more general feedback is also welcome. For example, what we can do more in this current situation. We will try to do more of this style webinars, as we will bring technology talks online if the situation still haven't improved by the time we would like to hold the next one. But yeah, in the meantime, everything will be virtual. Yes.